According to USA Today, students at Augustus Adolphus College got an email notification on February 11, 2016, notifying them that there had been a rape in one of the residence halls. Although at first the convicted student was sentenced to a suspension, he soon successfully appealed this decision and instead was punished by given a 500-word essay on consent. To put this into perspective, I have already said close to 100 words in this speech so far. This is just one case of how colleges in the United States are sweeping cases of sexual assault under the rug and not giving justice to the victims. It's time that colleges start changing their behavior when it comes to handling sexual assault, and that students and administration stop turning a blind eye to it. In this speech, I'll be talking about why victims don't come forward and how, as a group of students, we can start to fix the problem of sexual assault on college campuses. Many people feel that sexual assault is never going to directly impact their lives, when in fact, according to the National Sexual Violence Resource Center, 1 in 5 women and 1 in 16 men will be sexually assaulted sometime in college, and 90% of these cases will go unreported. It seems unimaginable to people that only 10% of people would come forward to try to get justice, and a lot of this lies in victim blaming. A lot of the time when a woman comes forward, she's asked what she was wearing or how much she had to drink, when in reality, these questions have no correlation to why the crime actually occurred. In other cases, victims are actually punished for their crimes. According to CNN, a report done by CNN earlier this year, students at Brigham Young University were expelled when they came forward as sexual assault victims. The university said that since they were under the influence of illegal substances that were prohibited by the school's honor code, that they needed to be expelled. Another student said that she was not believed by BYU. She came forward and the school told her that in many cases, girls feel guilty about consensual activities, so they claim it was sexual assault. This is just one example about how schools are judging students instead of supporting them. It's time to change the mindset of these universities, and it's time for them to start supporting people instead of judging them. And this first needs to change in the mindset of the students. The idea that your friend could be sexually assaulted is extremely uncomfortable. In many cases, victims actually know their perpetrator, and in many cases, it's somebody that can run in their close social circle. According to a study done by the National Institute of Justice, 85 to 90% of victims know their perpetrator, which means if one of your close friends is sexually assaulted in college, there's a strong probability that you could personally know their attacker. According to Time, 42% of victims who didn't come forward to police claimed they didn't do so because they were afraid of people finding out. We live in a society where people don't come forward to get justice for themselves because they're afraid of what other people will think or say to them. According to the Maryland Coalition Against Sexual Assault, these low reporting rates, due to being afraid to come forward, have caused only 9% of rapists to be prosecuted, only 5% of these prosecutions to lead to felony convictions, and only 3% of rapists will spend a day in jail. The other 97% of rapists will walk free. One of the reasons that this happens is because victims feel like they'll be at a social risk if they come forward. And sadly, this is true. A lot of the time when women or men come forward, they get called liars, or they get made fun of by their friends, or they're simply judged. In cases where their attacker was an athlete, they may feel pressure from their friends or the community of the school to not come forward because they're afraid that they'll harm the team. We live in a society where people are violated and afraid to come forward. This is why the cycle of sexual assault keeps occurring, because people feel like they will have no consequences due to their standing at the school, that they can sexually assault others and it's totally permissible because the school will not take action. The New York Times reports one of these cases at Florida State University. A student at Florida State University came forward with allegations that quarterback and future Heisman Trophy winner Jameis Winston raped her at a party. These allegations were kept quiet for over a year before the public found out. And it soon came out that the school knew about these allegations and did nothing to figure out what happened that night. This is another reason why victims won't come forward, because they feel like there's no point in reliving the actions of that night if they're going to get no justice. Why come forward and relive what's happened if nothing will ever come of it? The social stigma of sexual assault and the judgment faced by others is suffocating any chance society has to make a change in sexual assault. It's time for students to start stepping up, because until they start taking a direct hand in stopping sexual assault, universities never will. The first step of doing this is to simply be aware at social events. By being aware at a social event, you can get somebody out of a detrimental situation. If you see something looking like it can be becoming dangerous, either step in yourself or go and get help. Many times students feel uncomfortable coming forward because they feel like it's not their place or that the person wouldn't want them to do that. But really, just by grabbing somebody out of a situation, you could be very much benefiting them. The second step is to just talk about the issue. The topic of sexual assault for some reason has become so taboo in our society and no one wants to discuss it. Talk to your friends about if they know what consent is, what classifies consent and how important it is. Talk to them about statistics about sexual assault and how to keep them and their friends safe. The more people who are educated mean the less people who are likely to commit these crimes and the more people who will be able to help somebody out. And the third step is to know how your school personally handles sexual assault and to help to make these programs better. Pepperdine has many positive programs to deal with sexual assault. They have immunity for victims, they have immunity for Good Samaritans, and they have the Step Up program, which teaches students like you how to step up when it comes to sexual assault and how to handle the situation. In my interview with Don Emmerich, the Deputy Director of Public Safety, he told me that immediate action is taking place when a student comes and reports sexual assault. Although these are all positive things, Pepperdine also has no programs to help sexual assault victims other than the Anonymous Counseling Center. Also, going to a Christian school, we do have to be aware that there is sometimes a feeling of judgment that comes with that. If people get sexually assaulted while at a party or whenever they were under the influence, they may be afraid to come forward because they may feel judged by their peers or that people will judge them because of the activities they were partaking in. It's time that as a school, we need to start changing from a feeling of judgment to one of understanding. One way I believe that this could be productive is if we have mandatory meetings talking to victims of sexual assault, telling their stories and understanding what victims really go through. If we all take a stance and decide to be a more understanding community and not judge those who are sexually assaulted and support them, I believe that this community could be so much more understanding and the problems dealing with sexual assault could be we could help these problems on our campus. It's our generation's job to end the social stigma behind sexual assault and start the conversation about how to end it. Sexual assault is a common occurrence that's being treated as though it's rare. The reason for this is that victims don't want to come forward, or schools are just covering up the problem entirely. It's time that we decide to step up and make the students' voices louder than they already are. We need to support the victims instead of suffocating them. This speech is close to 1,500 words. That's 3 times as long as an essay a convicted rapist had to write for his punishment. My speech on how to prevent sexual assault required more effort than somebody who actually committed the crime of sexual assault. In an article by the Huffington Post, it reported that a victim was told by her attacker, "Stop pretending you are a human being." It's time that as a society we need to realize that that's exactly what a victim is, a human being. Thank you.